All right. I believe that's the right one. Do you guys see the record button on your end? Okay. All right. So today we're gonna focus on Josh and what he has to present. So let's go ahead and get started.
Yeah. So basically, this, the guy gets the target, system case or whatever that I had in mind for today was revolving around one particular client who I've been seeing, generally on a weekly basis since about partway through October of last year, I believe. And it's, I should, in terms of like the basic, things about him, he's an, elderly man who lives alone, and what I basically do is generally, call him to kind of provide, a checkup, make sure like his needs, are generally being met, provide, social support. Cause like I said, he is, living alone, and he, lost one of his, loved ones, a few, about a, year or two before. And part of it is that I've been having, trouble maintaining consistent communication, with him more recently, and also related to like one thing he brought up to me, a while back was that, in this, part of his life, he told me that he wanted to write a book about like his family's experiences. And he kind of related to me that that was really the kind of last, I guess, thing he wanted to do, in his life. It's like his early 80s. And I guess like I'm having trouble, considering like, I guess, how I should, best approach it. Partly because, I've only got so much time left, at this placement. And also because I want to see like, how can I do this in a, more, I guess, sensitive and appropriate fashion, I guess.
So to clarify, are you saying that the problem lies within how you can best work with meeting his needs and like in the most sensitive way with his current situation?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so let's transition now into the first phase. So let's go ahead and get started with Hannah.
So what are your best hopes for this consultation today?
I think, generally that is to feel a bit, a bit more, confident, I guess, in my capacity to, achieve my, general goals, to feel that what progress I have made, what I need to improve on. And I guess more, just generally more self-reflection.
What are your best hopes for this client?
I guess my best hopes would really be that I can, help him, in the best way fashion, that I can, make him feel, that, a sense of, I guess, fulfillment in his life, that he has, a good source of, support in me. And, that his needs are being met, at the end of the day.
Okay, so suppose that those goals were realized, that the client's needs were being met and got the support that he needed from you. What would you notice that would be different?
In me, do you think?
Yeah, within you, within the client.
Okay, I guess in myself, I would feel, more, better about my kind of, I guess, abilities, my capacity to be, caring, sensitive and considerate. And for him, I would hope, that, he would feel much, better in his life, that he would feel more fulfilled, that, he doesn't have to worry, say about, health care or, getting around, in terms of transportation, things like that, basic needs.
Mhm, mhm. Okay, and then what do you suppose other people, say at your placement, would notice with your interaction with this client?
I think they would probably notice, that, you know, I, I know what I'm doing, that like I have demonstrated, good, competencies, in a variety, of areas, I would say, and, that I am, fit, I guess overall.
Yeah.
All right, so on a scale from 1 to 10, where 10 stands for you are feeling super confident about meeting with your client, fulfilling his needs, and 1 stands for not confident at all in your abilities to work with this client, where are you now?
Um, Honestly, I'd probably say about a 6. I'd say closer to a 7, but not quite, because I feel like in terms of like the baseline, kind of I guess expectations, been doing my best to be consistent and all of that. But I feel like in terms of I feel like I could be doing more, I guess.
Okay. And what tells you that you're not a 5 or a 4?
Well, I guess, mainly that like when I do contact him, he does, consistently, sound like he's feeling well, that he doesn't feel, lonely, or, he doesn't feel like, he's, you know, uh, he doesn't feel like, the future is going to be, should I say, it's going to be bad, I guess.
And where do you hope to be, Josh?
I guess, hopefully at least like an 8, 8 or a 9, I guess overall, on the scale.
Yeah.
I suppose.
And what do you think would be different when you're an 8 or a
Oh.
9? What do you think you'll be doing?
I think that I would be a bit more, I guess, assertive in terms of, like I said, like more focusing on, I guess, like socio-emotional, needs,
Mhm.
beyond the basics, of like providing basic social support, but like helping him to engage in like reflecting, on his own, life and his experiences in a way that, provides, I guess, kind of lasting, satisfaction, I suppose.
So what are you doing now that is on track with helping this client meet his needs?
I would say in terms of that, mainly that, I do my best to make sure that, we have like a very specific, time, when we, when I do, try to contact him, I've been very consistent in terms of that. And also like in terms of, making sure that at my placement, other staff are aware of his situation, make sure to, document and things like that. There have been a couple of, instances where like, he did need help, help in terms of like, say, snow removal or, uh, heating at, his residence, stuff like that. I make sure, that I'm on the ball, I guess.
How are you being trauma informed when you work with him?
I guess like in terms of that, like I do my best, to try and like, I guess, as they say, like, see the whole person, kind of, try to consider like his own experiences as far as I know of them. Of course, there's only so much, I can really know, but like, he has, on a few occasions, told me a bit more about, his background, that he originally, uh, him and the rest of his family, are actually, emigrated, to the US, several, decades ago. And I try to consider that, in terms of how, I, communicate, I guess, issues or ideas to him.
What else are you doing that is on track towards meeting your goals?
Um, hmm. I guess, you know, in terms of keeping on track, I guess trying to, ask other people, in the staff who have known him much longer than I have, because this client has been in contact with, my placement for, quite a while, longer than I have. So kind of, like I say, like learning from other people, generally like things I should know. Maybe like there are issues that are more sensitive to him, other needs of his that I should keep in mind. I guess that's mainly what I can think of.
What is this client doing that's already on track?
I think in term, when it comes to that, I'd say he is pretty well on track in terms of like, when I talk to him, he feels, like he's pretty well at peace, generally speaking. He has been through, plenty of experiences in his, in his life, so far, but like, um, even at his, age, he's pretty independent, which is always, good to see, and like in terms of, other contacts, like, I know, he does have other sources of social support, although they're not quite as frequent, not like on a weekly basis, like with me, but it is good to see that, he knows other people, things like that.
So what about the agency? What's the agency doing that's on track to meet its needs as it's nearing the end of your placement?
Well, in terms of like a consistent issue, with him has been like, we're coming out of, a winter, that has been, more, difficult, and like heating costs have been going up. And one thing that my agency has been consistently working for, is to make sure that like in his, house, it can get, very cold, say, and we're working with, HEAP, home energy, was it assistance program, I believe it is, to like, ease like the financial burden that can be, because, he is, on a fixed income, issues like that. So on that, a particular issue, as well as others, like placement has been making sure that his needs are being met.
So it sounds to me like between the support that you're giving the client, the steps this client is taking to meet their own goals of, call it not necessarily end of life, but late stage of life satisfaction, that's being met, and the agency seems very supportive. So I want to know what your next step is going to be to reaching your and the client's goals.
Well, I suppose like, part of that is like, as I mentioned earlier, he said to me that, he wanted to write about, his experiences and that of his family. But I feel like in terms of that particular thing, which I feel like is something that, I have very much taken to heart, I need to do more on that, because I feel like, it is something that he has shown some willingness to do, but there might be, some like initial kind of hurdles, whether it's time or maybe that entails some issues that might be, sensitive, to him. That's, I guess, one of the things which I do want to pursue more. Like I said, end of life, kind of some, he said like that it is kind of like a thing like about leaving behind, something that is meaningful. But it also, in terms of myself, this is the case where like, this relationship will have to come to an end soon. And I want to do that in a respectful, caring, an ethical fashion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's a tough spot to be in, to try to support this client in this long-term goal, which really is like a whole sense of security, but also the fact that it's time limited. So how, I'm trying to think of how to word this, but you said you want to do more to help them reach this goal of writing the book. what do you think specifically you could do?
I could maybe try and, I guess, find like, someone who could help them with that. I mean, I'm not as sure, because say like hiring, someone, or that could be, that has, of course, like a financial, hurdles involved with it. Or it could be as simple, or doing something as simple as like, encouraging him to like, just write it down,
Mhm.
on like a, occasional, basis, things like that. Cause like, I feel like even if it's not something, say that like, is published or whatever, just, talking, I guess writing it down, I feel like would be very meaningful, for him. Even if it's just like, say his family or friends that see it.
I was gonna say, we're cutting close on time, so I'm gonna have to end this section. And we're gonna move into the wonderment phase. So Josh, turn off your video and your. I was gonna say, I wonder what previous experiences that you already have that you could maybe build from to help you better work with this current client.
Mhm.
I wonder how the client's going to feel when Josh has to leave.
Mm.
Mm.
I wonder what kind of services Josh is offering or has to provide to this client, because he mentioned heat and everything, in addition to that support of the client's initial or specific goals. So it sounds like
Mhm.
Josh provides a lot to him.
Yeah, I wonder what therapeutic support the client is getting, because it also sounds like Josh is like offering therapeutic support.
Mhm.
I agree. I wonder what kind of engagement skills Josh has been using. Because it feels like it's something is definitely paying off if this client's consistently sounding well, and is at peace, which is huge.
I wonder how he's finding success when if I'm remembering, it's like over the phone. I wondered, yeah, how he's pulling it off, because that's not the easiest way to talk to clients.
I wonder if Josh will ever get the chance to see this person face to face.
I wonder what the client expects when he calls Josh. What he expects to like talk about in their sessions.
I wonder how this is emotionally like impacting Josh, like what he might be feeling. And if it's like, really impacting him emotionally or how he's handling that.
Mhm. Yeah, and going off that, I wonder how Josh is going to feel when this field placement ends about this client and other ones too.
I wonder what has helped build Josh's confidence in helping clients reach goals.
I wonder how Josh's relationships are compared with his other clients compared to this client.
I wonder if this client will write a book when Josh is gone. Or if the ideal will still be there.
Mhm.
Do we have any other wonderments, or are we ready to move on?
I think we're good.
All right, so Josh, if you want to turn your camera back on. So we're now going to move into the compliment phase.
I think I think it's great that you're caring for this client so much, you know, beyond just the services that it sounds like you provide, like the heat and the plowing, that accessibility to their house. You're like trying to help them meet their goals while you're there and going into the future.
I was also going to say that I'm really impressed by like how mindful you have been when working with the client, like with the snow removal stuff, things you don't really normally think about.
Mhm. I'm impressed by the rapport that you've built with this client when you have such like are different ages than them, like to build that strong rapport. It's very impressive.
I'm impressed like by the amount of care and empathy that you have been showing for the client. Like even by bringing up this issue, it's already showing that you really care for the client.
I'm just impressed with your engagement skills, like we touched on, having it be over the phone, and not seeing that person or being able to read their body language, but to develop that rapport. I would perceive it to be a challenge, but it seems like you've done an amazing job.
And I'm impressed that sounds like you've heard their stories out, really gotten to know who they are throughout time, you know, when they were younger. So that really gets you a good idea of who they are and how to help them out. So you must have some very good skills related to that.
I'm impressed with how much you want to see this client feel fulfilled, and how driven you are to help that client feel fulfilled.
I agree.
I just wanted to say that like, especially like as a student, it's gotta like take like a lot of confidence to work with this particular client. And I feel like personally, I don't know if I would have the level of experience to do that. So I think that it's impressive that you're handling it so well. So we're now going to move on to the next phase. And I just wanted to know like how you feel this group went for you.
Yeah, I'd say very well. You know, I do feel like, you know, I have a better idea, you know, of what I have been doing right, what I should do, you know, more of. And I guess, you know, I guess just overall, you know, I feel better.
And how do the rest of you feel that the group went, like what worked well for everyone?
I feel a little briefing at the beginning before jumping into the questions. That definitely painted a good picture. And I feel as we've done more and more groups, we've done a little bit more of that, which I think has been helping me.
Mhm. I feel like we're all getting way more comfortable with the roles, whether it's presenter, group member, or facilitator. So it's like instead of focusing on what we're responsible for, we're like tuning into the case. Or maybe that's just me, but I definitely feel like we can focus up and get the work done.
I also think that we are all doing a good job of like all participating and actively listening and working together as a group.
How was your experience being the facilitator?
I was definitely nervous, but I feel like I'm doing my best to listen to what Josh has to say, keep track of time, and focus on the certain skills throughout. So I would say that overall, I think like I'm gonna use it as like a learning experience. And I definitely like noticed like a common theme. I feel like today, just in general, like not only empowerment was a huge theme with the compliments, but just our roles developing like as a group.
Mhm.
Does anyone else have anything to add or?
I think we're getting good at like the wonderments and compliments because we all come from such very different fields placements that we don't even need to know all the details of like the roles and responsibilities, but we all have a pretty good idea of how each other would think in that position. So I think we're getting very good at like validating each other on the decisions that they made and the accomplishments.
I agree. Yeah, I was also gonna say like I wish I would have mentioned this earlier, Josh, but I think like one way of like looking at the situation like that you presented, a way to kind of like reframe that would be that basically you know how you mentioned like working with like an older client and everything and how you're like struggling. I think like another way to look at it is like as like a stepping stone. So you're having this experience now and then you're gonna like use it later on in the field. So like maybe instead of like, you know, looking at it as like a problem, like we've all been identifying it, maybe like more so reframing it as like a learning or a growth experience. Um, Basically like the assignment in general, I feel like it could be relabeled to that. I don't know. Sorry to go off
Yeah,
on a
yeah,
tangent.
that's a very good point.
Yeah. But do you feel like you got a lot out of the session that you needed today?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so.
All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and close the group and I will see you guys in class.
Okay.